he could stop bad news by just telling people not to talk, he would. This is driving me nuts. Without knowing what his boss was thinking, the employee's face lit up as he blurted out, I found out who that man is. The director's eyes nearly popped out. What? And the president's office at the Hunters Association. Crack. President Gun-hee-go quickly let go of the couch armrest. The doctor sitting next to him glanced over. President Go, I got a bit too excited, he admitted. Without realizing it, he had gripped the armrest so hard it shattered. How could he stay calm after what he'd just seen? His emotions surged as he watched Jin-Woo, on the big TV. If his body could handle it, he would have joined the raid himself. Getting too pumped up isn't good for your health. The doctor reminded him. Gun-hee nodded. There was one simple reason why, as president of the association, he wasn't in the mission command room. The stress of the operation, whether it succeeded or failed, would have been way too much for his heart. His doctor decided to stay close and keep an eye on him because even just watching it happen on TV could be dangerous. Should I have kept President Go from watching the raid? The doctor wondered if he had made the right call, but then he looked at his patient's determined face and shook his head. Ever since Hunter Sung showed up, the president had barely stopped smiling. It's Jin-Woo. Gun-hee's excited shout still echoed in the doctor's ears, turning a hopeless moment into something full of hope. Gun-hee couldn't help but laugh. This was unbelievable. He gripped the couch armrest tightly, trying to stay calm when all he wanted to do was jump into the action. How did Hunter Sung even get here? That question kept swirling in his mind. How did Jin-Woo manage to slip onto an island crawling with ants without anyone noticing? That was a mystery, but it wasn't the most important thing. What mattered was that Hunter Sung had arrived, and as long as he was there, the other hunters still had a chance. Those were the only details that truly counted. Then, something happened that left Gun-hee speechless. He watched in disbelief as Jin-Woo pulled shadows out of dead ants to create even more shadow soldiers. That young man had lied to him. There were way more than just 100 minions. Even if you just guessed, there were at least 300. But Gun-hee didn't seem upset or surprised. Instead, he had a big smile on his face. He said he wanted to fight magic beasts. Now Gun-hee understood why Jin-Woo made that comment. With power like that, Jin-Woo wasn't afraid of any magic beast. Jin-Woo looked super excited as he faced the magic beast, so much so that you could tell he was in his element. Then why did he say no when they asked him to join the Korean team? Maybe something super important came up for him, because if you saw Jin-Woo facing those magical monsters, you'd think he'd definitely join the team. Gun-hee nodded with confidence, like he knew Jin-Woo wouldn't miss it, unless he really had to. Gun-hee sat deep in thought, wondering why Jin-Woo wasn't joining in. Suddenly loud bangs echoed through the house. Gina, who had been studying in her room, popped her head into the living room. Mom, she asked, curious about the noise. I'm sorry, her mom replied. Was that too loud? Gina shook her head. The volume was already turned way down, so it wouldn't interrupt her studies, and she didn't want her mom to worry about it. No, it's fine, Gina said. But what's going on? Is the TV broken? It's just stopped, Gina said, frowning at the dark screen. Her mom looked around, confused. Wait, where's your brother? He was here a second ago. Gina shrugged and pushed open the door to Jin-Woo's room. Jin-Woo, she called, but there was no answer. She checked the bathroom too, still no sign of him. After searching every corner of the apartment, she turned to her mom. What show were you two watching? The Jeju Island Raid, her mom replied. Gina suddenly felt a strange feeling in her stomach. Now that she thought about it, the rest of the building had been pretty noisy for a while. Could it be? She rushed back to her room and grabbed her phone, flipping it open. The crowd went wild. Cheers erupted from every corner of the building. Gina stared at her phone screen, totally shocked by what she saw. Jin-Woo, she exclaimed. As soon as Jin-Woo had defeated the ants in the Queen's Den, he called his soldiers back to his shadow. Not all the ants that had been sent out across the island had returned yet, so Jin-Woo knew he needed to get the hunters to a safe spot before they ran into more monsters. Some of them were hurt. After all, he walked over to the raid team. Things were looking pretty bad for almost everyone except Yoon-ho and the cameraman. Chine was still out cold, and the other 3 hunters were hurt really badly. Jin-Woo glanced around and asked, "Where's Hunter Min?" Yoon-ho just shook his head, looking super sad. Without wasting any time, Jin-Woo pulled out some healing potions to help the injured hunters. Taju had to give the hunters the magic potions because they only worked if he was holding them. As each hunter drank a potion, they started getting better. Taju sat there, patting himself all over like he was checking for something and said, "Huh." Jonggin and Dongwook's wounds also began to heal. Everyone looked confused. Then Jonggin coughed and stared at Jin-Woo with a puzzled expression. "Hunter Sung," he asked, clearly having no idea what was going on. "Why are you here? Let's talk outside." Jonggin looked around, taking in their surroundings, and nodded. They were deep inside the anthill, not the best place for a chat. Dongwook, whose sight was back, squeezed Jin-Woo's hand tightly. "Master Sung," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You're the one who fought off those ants, right? Thank you." "Thanks a ton," Jin-Woo replied to Dongwook with a grin. "Let's catch up outside." "Got it," Dongwook said, heading out first. Hain was the last one left. Jin-Woo knelt down beside her, his brow furrowing in concern. "This feels off," she thought. "Her energy seems really low." She carefully poured the potion into Hayden's mouth, his stomach twisting with a bad feeling. A message popped up right away. Healing potions can't recover HP when it drops below 10% of your total HP. Jin-Woo frowned. He gently laid her head back on the ground and pulled his hand away, which was now covered in blood. That stupid ant had managed to give one of Korea's top hunters a life-threatening injury with just one hit. The other hunters were alive, only because the ant hadn't finished with them yet. Jin-Woo's face turned grim. But one thing was clear, Hae needed help now. Her wound wasn't healing from potions, so she had to leave this island, ASAP, and see a real healer. "Let's go!" Jin-Woo scooped her up in his arms and stood, ready to move fast. No time to waste. The rest of the hunters jumped up too. Jin-Woo let out a deep sigh as he quickly tried to get everyone to leave the queen's den. Ino knew exactly why Jin-Woo was doing this. Jin-Woo handed Heron over to the guildmaster, whose face turned red with worry. "I'll help," Ino said. Jin-Woo looked around at everyone and said firmly, "Stay out of this." "Jin-Woo, you mean?" Jonggin started to ask, though he wasn't totally sure what was going on. But before he could finish, Dongwook shook his head and interrupted him. Even though Dongwook hadn't actually seen what happened with the ants, he had a pretty good idea of what Jin-Woo had done. Jin-Woo was right this time, but Yuno still looked worried. "Hunter Sung," he said, turning to Jin-Woo. "I think I get it better than anyone," Yunho said with a serious face. "But you've already called way too many minions, right?" Jin-Woo stared at him, confused. "What's the problem?" Yunho looked worried and waved his hands like he was trying to explain something urgent. "Don't you get it? You've probably used up a lot of mana already. What will you do if you run out?" Jin-Woo finally understood what Yunho was saying. From what Yunho said, other hunters who use summoning magic need a bunch of magic power to cast their spells. They don't need to know that my shadow soldiers don't use up much magic power. Right? Plus, my shadow soldiers clearly don't look like ordinary minions anyway. Jin-Woo chose his words carefully. "My minions don't use up much magic power, so there's no need to worry about that." Huh? What? Yunho and the cameraman exclaimed at the same time. Jin-Woo didn't need a ton of magic power to summon all those minions. Did this man have any weaknesses? Jin-Woo glanced toward the cave exit, trying not to say more. Suddenly a swarm of ants rushed in, so many. They had an injured ant with them, so there was no time to lose. Jin-Woo quickly activated Monarch's domain to speed things up. The ground under his feet turned an eerie black. Just as he was about to call his soldiers, a spooky wind swept through the cave from the other side. Jin-Woo felt something sinister and searched for its source. To his surprise, it was coming from one of the ants. Even though he looked almost identical to the others, there was something about this one that set him apart. Jin-Woo knew instantly, it was the Ant King. The Ant King also noticed Jin-Woo and slowly strolled over. "Human. You've got a lot of energy," he said in Ryuji's voice. The other hunters, still shaken by the nightmare they'd just been through, took a step back, but Jin-Woo stood his ground, staring the beast down with a fierce glare. The Ant King stopped right in front of Jin-Woo. "Are you the king of humans?" he asked. Jin-Woo barely reacted. "Who would have thought a bug could talk?" he said casually. The Ant King's face twisted in rage. Using the power he'd gained from the queen, and his own brutal strength, he began to grow, his body expanding massively, as he unleashed all his magic. He was once the same height as Jin-Woo, but then shot up to 1.5 times his size. The towering figure let out an ear-piercing roar, right in Jin-Woo's face. Skra didn't flinch. Instead, a confident smile spread across his face. Now you look more like a bug, he said calmly before unleashing his own powerful magic. Meanwhile, President Matsumoto's face turned pale with worry. We've lost contact with Goto, he exclaimed. A subordinate quickly handed him a headset, hoping to re-establish communication. President Matsumoto grabbed the headset and put it on quickly. The employee played the recording for him. "Aunt, you have quite a presence. You're the king." "King? Yeah, I'm the king, Mr. Goto." Then there were some weird noises like growls and screams. What are you?" The recording suddenly cut off with a beep. President Matsumoto took off the headset, looking shocked. The creepy sounds and eerie silence made it clear. Was this aunt actually talking like a human? President Matsumoto's eyes widened in disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. Their plan had been perfect, with every detail thought through. So how could Goto be gone? His hands started to shake a little, but he quickly hid them when he noticed his subordinate staring. "Where's the magic beast that? You know," he said quietly, avoiding the words that would remind him of what happened to Ryuji. He couldn't bring himself to say it out loud. "It's disappeared," came the reply. "Disappeared." Matsumoto's voice rose in surprise. How could something powerful enough to take down Ryuji just vanish? They had cameras that tracked magic, didn't they? The employee gestured to a screen as if expecting this question. "That light shows where the beast is. Every spark of magic lights up here." But the screen was dark now, and the light was gone. The bigger and brighter the white spot on the monitor was, the more powerful the source of magic. When Ryuji's light and the Japanese hunter's lights flickered out, the largest, most super bright spot disappeared too. "Oh no," President Matsumoto groaned. The enemy had amazing control over its magic power. That's why, because it could hide so well. This was why the research team hadn't noticed it before. It was like they were totally outsmarted. Japan had paid a steep price, losing 10 of its top hunters, including the strongest one. This was a huge cost for a single mistake, and President Matsumoto couldn't shake off the dark thoughts swirling in his head. What if that terrifying magic beast crosses the ocean? What? But then, something happened. "Found it! It's shown up," someone exclaimed, snapping President Matsumoto out of his gloomy thoughts. His eyes popped open. "Where is it?" he asked sharply. The reply came. "It's in the Queen's Den." President Matsumoto paused, frowning. That was where the Korean hunters were desperately fighting off wave after wave of attackers. They were barely holding on. But this new creature, it was something no one could have imagined. "I guess they're doomed," President Matsumoto thought to himself. But then, something caught his eye. A strange light had suddenly appeared right in front of the horrifying beast. What is that?" President Matsumoto stuttered in shock. He turned to a member of the research team, who shook their head vigorously. "I've never seen a signal that big before," they admitted. It looked like it was just as strong. Or maybe even stronger than the magic beast itself. But what was even more surprising were hundreds of tiny sparks surrounding it. The lead researcher on the team had spent years studying surveillance videos, but had never seen anything like this. They couldn't help but watch in amazement, as the small sparks kept breaking apart from, and merging back into the bigger light. President Matsumoto was in a rush and didn't have time to be amazed. "The Korean team is still filming the raid, right?" he exclaimed. Since they were alive, their broadcast was likely live. Eager to see what was happening, he barked, "Put the Korean broadcast on the main screen." Instantly the monitor displayed a man facing off against an ant. The man's intense expression and tense posture made the scene electrifying. President Matsumoto gulped as he stared at the man's face. Sweat trickled down from his temple and dripped onto his chin. How's this guy controlling all those lights? In front of this stranger stood a massive magic beast, way bigger than any normal ant. President Matsumoto's heart pounded as he felt the ant's powerful presence through the screen. He was stunned. Suddenly the ant made the first move. The Ant King swung its fist at Jin-Woo's face with a loud atsy thud. The blow was so strong. It almost knocked Jin-Woo off balance, but he managed to stay upright by anchoring himself with his heels dug into the ground. The ant had put all its strength into that punch, but Jin-Woo took it like it was nothing. "You withstood my attack," The ant had tried to deliver a knockout blow, but Jin-Woo barely flinched, his head jerking slightly to the side. However, there was no time to be surprised, as Jin-Woo threw a punch of his own. Double. Head hit the ant right in the face and slammed it into the wall. Double wall crumbled like a meteor had smashed into it. For a second, the whole cavern shook from the force of the impact. Stunned viewers stared at their screens as the broadcast was interrupted by a technical difficulties message. What kind of ant talks that much? Someone wondered aloud. The hunters. What just happened to them? Another person asked. Confused. What was up with that ant? Someone else chimed in. Are you serious? Another voice added, equally baffled. Are you serious? They cut the broadcast right at that moment. Out of nowhere, a magic beast ant had shown up, and the hunters were completely caught off guard. For the viewers who were just celebrating the queen's death, watching that winged magic beast take down the hunters was a major wake-up call. The host popped back on screen, looking somber. We've just received some tough news, he said sadly. He told everyone that Hunter Byung-gu Min had died, and that no one knew what was happening with the other hunters in the ant cave right now. The chat exploded with reactions. Damn it. They killed the queen. Why are they dying? Where's Japan? This is supposed to be a team effort, right? You wouldn't believe what just happened. The Japanese team had everyone on edges. Some were angry, others worried, and many were heartbroken. People were in a panic, thinking the hunters might not make it out alive after facing those dangerous magic beasts. Even when the stream cut out, more viewers tuned in, making the ratings soar. Then the host's face lit up with some exciting news. An unknown hunter had shown up. This got everyone pumped again. When the live feed came back on, shadow soldiers filled the screens, and people were totally shocked. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. It was like something out of a movie. The soldiers were locked in an intense battle against a never-ending wave of ants rushing into the queen's den. The camera stopped moving and zoomed in on one person, but it was too far to tell who it was. A voice explained, those armored warriors are actually servants of the hunter shown earlier. The news came in that most of the other hunters were safe and sound. The worried crowd erupted into cheers, and began shouting excitedly at their screens. Go crush them, someone yelled. Others chimed in with yes. Get him. And let's go. Then, a mysterious hunter appeared, bringing in fresh troops who immediately charged into battle against the ants. Whoa, the audience went wild, throwing their hands up in shock and awe. Minds were blown as everyone watched the intense fight unfold. People who wanted revenge for losing family or friends to the ants got choked up at finally seeing something they'd been waiting for. The host's voice boomed like they'd been holding on to this news forever. Guess what? We just figured out who the hunter is. Everyone leaned in, dying to know. Who was this guy? Who could save S-rank hunters from a place packed with dangerous magic beasts? The answer thrilled everyone. Jin-Woo Sung, Korea's 10th S-rank hunter. This awesome mage hunter was known for his summoning magic. And what really got fans excited was that he wasn't from Japan. As they watched, Jin-Woo made the ants vanish in seconds, leaving viewers amazed by his power. Just as the hunters were almost out of the cave, another wave of ants blocked their way. Huh, what's going on? One of them shouted in surprise. That's... someone else stammered, unsure of what to say. Then, a winged ant emerged from the crowd. It was one of those rare flying ants they'd spotted earlier before the broadcast suddenly cut off. Its face stood out clearly among the swarm. People watching at home were totally confused. The heck is that? Someone exclaimed. It's... Another person trailed off, shocked into silence. Wait, is that thing still alive? Someone shouted. That's the same monster that attacked those hunters earlier, right? Why is it back here? The winged ant stopped right in front of Jin-Woo. For anyone who knew about hunter classes, this was a nightmare. Oh no, he's toast, someone whispered. How did a mage hunter let a magic beast get so close? Others muttered. Run now while you still can. Just moments before, the magic beast had knocked out Heian, a strong brawler, with just one punch. Now it was coming for Jin-Woo. The battle seemed over before it even began. But then the ant grew to monster size, and the crowd went wild with fear. Everyone screamed as the scene played out. The ant swung at Jin-Woo with a deafening pow. People with weak stomachs covered their eyes, expecting the worst. But wait, Jin-Woo was totally fine. The audience gasped in shock. How did a mage hunter survive when Hunter Ma, the tough tank, went down with just one hit? Then, another loud kapow echoed as Jin-Woo slammed the ant into the wall. The crowd erupted in cheers again. The cameraman's jaw dropped. He had seen the ant's power before and felt queasy, but this was unbelievable. The same ant that had toyed with 6 S-rank hunters was easily defeated by Jin-Woo, shocking everyone. The cameraman blurted out in surprise, which made everyone wonder if the other S-rank hunters were weak. But no way, those hunters had skillfully taken down an S-rank queen before. This was just a totally different situation. It was super weird that the mutant ant had taken down the hunters. But even crazier was Hunter Sung managing to knock that beast out cold. The cameraman's heart raced, and he had to swallow hard to calm himself down. The other hunters were just as hyped, all eyes on Jin-Woo in awe. But Jongin, on the other hand, suddenly looked around. The cave floor was covered in ant bodies, a grim reminder of what they'd just gone through. At first he thought the other hunters had teamed up to take them down while he was knocked out, but looking at Jin-Woo now made him wonder if that's really what happened. Did Jin-Woo do this on his own? His eyes widened in shock as he quickly counted the number of bodies scattered around. Then, a piercing roar cut through the air. Startled by the sudden noise, Jongin spun around. The Ant King was furious, clawing his way out of the rubble with a thunderous scowl on his face. The air was super tense in the den. Jin-Woo stared at the ant, totally confused. The creature hadn't taken as much damage as he expected. He thought about its exoskeleton. It was like a built-in suit of armor, way tougher than anything found in nature. If Jin-Woo wanted to defeat it, brute strength would be his best bet. A hammer would work better than his daggers here. Jin-Woo flexed his muscles, and the room felt even heavier. The Ant King let out one final roar, then growled as he spun around to face Jin-Woo. "Who do you think you are?" It snarled. The two enemies rushed toward each other, closing the distance in seconds. Before long they were nose to nose, ready for an epic showdown. The battle was intense. Every punch and kick echoed through the cave. Kapow, bam, tough whack. The ground shook so hard, it felt like the whole place might collapse. Even the strongest hunters were stunned, watching as Jin-Woo and the Ant King clashed in a wave of swirling magic. The cameraman, who was only an A-rank hunter compared to the others, looked green around the gills. Ugh, he groaned, clutching his stomach. "Are you okay?" someone asked. He forced a smile through his nausea and nodded weakly. Yes. I'm fine." But what kept him going was hope. Ba-ba-dump. Ba-dump. Ba-ba-ba-ba-dump. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-dump. On the other hand, Jin-Woo seemed to be holding up against its attacks. Could this really be happening? A crazy thought popped into the Ant King's head. Wait a minute, was he actually weaker than the human? That didn't seem right. After all, the human was only half the size of the magic beast. But before he could figure it out, something unexpected happened. Crack! Then felt a sharp hit on his side that sounded and felt different from the others. He glanced down to check the damage, and what he saw shocked him. It was split wide open, and there right before his eyes was an actual crack in his exoskeleton.